Meanwhile, Hong Kong wasn't the only place where pro-democracy protests took place this year. They were also happening in Lebanon. Joining us now is activist Roula Talj. Roula, you know, the greatest thing for Americans in what we were seeing in Hong Kong was seeing them wave the American flag. The perception of the United States by the protesters played a part in their demonstrations. Is there any similarity in what's happening in Lebanon?
No, we're all under one flag. It's the Lebanese flag, which is an amazing outcome. Since the Civil War, people were more into their parties and their sectarian parties, and for the first time, or the second time probably, you see all sects united under one flag, and they all want one.
That's extraordinary, because for those who don't remember, and there are a lot of young people who don't, I mean, there have been some awful civil wars in Lebanon that have led to thousands, hundreds of thousands of deaths. Most of those were sectarian. You're saying that in this case, the protests have nothing to do with sectarian differences?
No, on the contrary, we are, I think the protests buried the Civil War. All parties are sectarian parties. Whenever they fight with each other, they just threaten with a new civil war. Whenever they come together, they steal the country. And in fact, it seems that you have $200 billion, if I want to be fair, to $300 billion, which is like 4 to 5 times the GDP of the country.
But you're saying the parties, understandably, are always in their own camps, but the protests themselves, are they going outside of the party?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
This is the beginning of a movement that's trying to dissolve the parties that exist, the party politics?
Yes.
How much success are they having?
Well, we've been left alone, you know, like the parties would say, oh, this is American money, this is the CIA doing this. And when I came to Washington to lobby for the revolution, for the exact needs of the revolution, which are like sanctioning the thieves who are our politicians. They used to be the warlords in Lebanon, and then all of a sudden they recycled themselves into politicians, and they ended up stealing everything. So the poverty, Lebanon is like financially can make it out of this crisis. But however, today we have more than 50% to 60% of jobless people. We have $200 billion in the bank accounts in Switzerland and elsewhere, in the name of those politicians and their entourage.
And when I said you look to America for guidance, I didn't mean that the CIA was getting in there and trying to drive the protest movement. That absolutely not. What I meant was, is there any inspiration looking at an alternative to the cronyism that you have now in Lebanon? Is it an American type of democracy, an American kind of market that you would like to orient the country towards?
I think there will be a split, but in any case, yes, this is the kind of democracy people would look up for. However, I would like to tell you that America does not have had not been very, like credible with the people in the region, because they gave up on the Kurds, they gave up so many things, and with the President Obama's years were not they were not good. He made a bad deal with Iran and gave us up to the Muslim Brothers in Egypt and elsewhere, and strengthened Iran. So today, with what President Trump is trying to do, we're hoping that we will move towards a more democratic region, a more democratic Islam, which will be a better place for everybody to live.
Right. Stay with us if you can, because I want to switch to Saudi Arabia. They have given the death sentence to 5 people who were condemned as a result of the Khashoggi murder. Lauren, you have some more specific details.
Jamal Khashoggi, this decision is certainly raising some eyebrows today.
Roula, let me just ask you about this, specifically because of what it implies about the rule of law. Our wonderful economic system in the United States would be nowhere if it wasn't for our adherence to the rule of law. Businesses have to adhere to the rule of law. It's clear, no matter what happened with the Khashoggi murder, there's a lot of intrigue, and whether the Crown Prince was directly involved or not, the CIA said one thing, Trump administration officials say something else. It's clear that the rule of law has a big question mark over it. How do you establish the rule of law in a place like Lebanon, which has had these civil wars, which has the cronyism among the political elite? It's a very difficult thing to establish, isn't it?
I think, from my perspective, I don't know if most demonstrators would agree with me, but I see no other way than placing good judges in order to form a government of 9 months or something, and then those judges will use our power with the international community in order to bring this money back. I'm talking
These
about.
judges have to be willing to die for the cause of the rule of law, right?
We have a few good judges, if they are covered by the security forces and the armed forces in Lebanon, who are funded by or helped. The funding is coming from the U.S. That also, we need the U.S. to help us put some sanctions over those who are trying to split the army.
Well, you're a very brave woman, and there are a lot of very brave people fighting for democracy, so we wish you the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
God bless. Coming up next, we've got